Good morning, everyone. Joe Madden here. This is the Joe Madden Sports Show. I'm joined this morning by Mark Drumheller of Yahoo Sportsbook, sports betting analyst. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited. We're getting deep into the football season now, so we really have a good idea of what these teams are, and we got a good Monday night game tonight. So, thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. We are going to talk this Monday night football game, but before we do, let's dive into a little bit about yourself, Mark. How did you get started in this industry?
Yeah, I think like everybody else, I have a pretty interesting story. I started podcasting. It must have been, I want to say like 10 plus years ago, before podcasting was really a thing. And then, we got into that and it was just talking sports with your friends and talking about sports betting and that sort of thing. And then, I linked up with Gail Saunders from Fourth and John here in Philadelphia, very, prominent podcast and kind of got into podcasting with him and did some writing for his blog. And then, linked up around, I want to say it was 2019. Time flies, but that's when, sports betting became legal in New Jersey, and Philadelphia launched the radio station Fox Sports The Gambler here in Philadelphia on iHeartRadio. And, I met with Sean Brace, who was program director of that station, and, told him my story, showed him some of my work and what we're about. I started, writing for him, and then everything kind of started falling into place. I still make frequent radio appearances with them as an analyst. And, from there I linked up with Yahoo Sportsbook, and, everything has been going great since.
Now, everything you do, you have this air of confidence that you have the true ability to talk sports, all the confidence in yourself when you're talking them. Did you always have that kind of confidence?
I don't think so. I just think it comes with preparation. You know what I mean? And that's really like when I talk about, sports, it's fun to talk about things that you really have a passion for. And I think that's where it comes from. And doing, the homework and the work, learning as much as possible about each teams. I think that's really a lot of where the confidence comes. And some of it is, one of the hardest lessons I learned in sports betting, and really where the light started to turn on, was the realizing that, it's going to be okay to be wrong and not to be so results oriented, that like, hey, if you have a side in a game and it doesn't go your way, it's one iteration of a game that could have went 100 different ways when you talk about, all the variants within a game, whether it's injuries or, refs making a crazy call or, all those things. So, just because the bet didn't hit, it doesn't necessarily mean you're on the wrong side. And if you did the homework beforehand and you were comfortable with your stance, then that's really what it's all about. It's really about the process and over the long term, being profitable. So, once I learned that kind of like, the light switch came on, and then I just realized that like, hey, it's not, you don't have to like live and die by what's on the scoreboard each week, as long as you know that you're doing the right thing and doing your preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not out there throwing darts, you definitely know that you did the backup, you did the research to get to that pick. Mark, where'd the love of sports come from?
I always had it when I was a kid. I mean, going back now, I'm in my 40s, so I'm those baseball cards back then and stats and reading a newspaper and all those things, and just always had a always like stats and numbers and trying to figure out ways to prove like which players were the best, and predicting outcomes. Always, with your favorite team, you want to know, growing up here in Philadelphia, being a football fan, the Eagles weren't a lot to cheer about early back then in, the 80s and the early 90s. So, just trying to figure out, ways to get insight into like, are the things that they're doing, does it have them heading in the right direction? That stuff ever since I was a kid. And then, throughout my life and my career is, now there's so much data, out there, and so much information. It really makes it like a puzzle that you try and solve each week with each of the teams, just to kind of get a little bit of an edge.
Absolutely. Are you still an Eagles fan?
I am 4-0. So excited. Laid the 6.5 against the Jaguars. So didn't get off to a great start, but we got the job done in the end. So, they're looking good. And like I said, going into the season, when they made the trade for AJ Brown on draft night, I immediately bet them plus 300 to win the division. But I'm on record doing a lot of interviews where I said, hey, man, I like them to win the division. It's a weak division. I don't think they can contend for the NFC. But now, we're 4 weeks in. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm starting to change opinion and thinking I was slighting them a little bit, because they do look strong, and they do look like, as long as they stay healthy. We got a little banged up yesterday against Jacksonville, but if they stay healthy, I think they can compete.
Yeah, I am blown away by how well your Eagles have done. Jalen Hurts looking phenomenal out there. Did you expect them to be 4-0 when you looked at the schedule going into the season?
I didn't, but one of the things that I did look at that I think it has been critical is going into the season. Obviously we know it's a huge season for Jalen Hurts. People, there are whispers like here in Philadelphia nationally, like, is he good enough to make that step to really be, the guy of the future for Philadelphia, or should they be looking somewhere else, to get a quarterback? Again, I think that's what happens when you take a quarterback in the second round. A lot of high profile quarterbacks that get drafted in the top 10 or first half of the first round, and he's a guy who went in the second round. The success rate is much lower in that area. But, one of the things when I looked at the schedule that I talked about was they have a great opportunity to get off to a fast start because of some of the secondaries that were on the schedule earlier in the year, right? We talked about they played, they opened up against Detroit. We've seen what their defense is like, right? They're over every single week. Push your money in on the Detroit over, and you're pretty happy. Their defense a little weak. They played, Washington, another very suspect secondary, and then Minnesota, which I think a lot of people didn't realize going in. And one of the main reasons I was on them in that Monday night matchup is that they're a team. Kevin O'Connell is going to do a lot of good for the Vikings offensively, but they're a team on the back end in that secondary really struggles. So, you get those first 4 games where you're going up against, below average secondaries. And I thought that was good for the Eagles to kind of build confidence, and for Jalen Hurts to build confidence in the offense with some new pieces with A.J. Brown. So I thought it all kind of lined up well that way. So I'm excited that, they're taking advantage of it.
Season is definitely looking bright for them. What is the overall thoughts on Jalen Hurts? I know they've gone 4-0, but we know fans can be brutal. We hear it about Tua. People still saying Tua's not their guy in Miami. What are Philly fans saying about Hurts?
Well, they love him now. I mean, the story is a little bit different, right? You start 4-0 and everybody loves you. And that's, and it's good to see, because the thing with Jalen Hurts is I think he has all the intangibles. And it was always just about like the arm talent, like, can he make all the throws? And that's really, because in the NFL, that's what it's about now. When you look at the Josh Allens and you look at the Patrick Mahomes, those guys make you, as a defensive coordinator, cover the entire field because of their arm strength and their ability to push the ball down the field on a rope. And Jalen Hurts doesn't have that type of arm strength. So it was always like, hey, is he going to be good enough physically to get the job done? Because he has all the intangibles. He's incredible leadership ability, incredibly hard worker. He has everything that kind of resonates with fans in Philadelphia. It was just a matter of, can he show it on the field that he can be that guy to lead this offense? So when Howie Roseman went out and got him another weapon in A.J. Brown in the offseason, I was very excited, because this is going to be the year that we found out. And it looks like we are finding out. It looks like he is getting the job done. So really excited, because like I said, from a player perspective, really easy to root for. Tremendous leader, tremendous work ethic, does everything right. He has everything that you want to be the face of your franchise. So, we just need him to get the job done on the field, and he's doing a great job so far.
Absolutely. Well, I wish your Eagles all the best for the rest of the season. Let's talk tonight's Monday Night Football game. We have the LA Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, 49ers in their last game out looked atrocious versus Denver. Any hopes for them here to come out and get this win at home, if I can talk today?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm on the 49ers. I was not on them. I was on Denver, against the Broncos, and ended up on the right side of that. Very ugly game, right? And I think that's one of the keys when you talk about this game with the 49ers. Defensively, they've looked very strong. Haven't played the toughest teams, played Seattle, but we saw Seattle put up 40-something points against Detroit, right? Held Seattle to 7 points. Held Chicago down in that loss offensively. The Niners offense didn't get the job done there, but the defense looked good. And we saw again last week, the defense held them in that game as long as they could. And I think that's what you're going to see here. This is a Rams team that I was down on coming into the season because they lost some pieces in the offensive line. That Whitworth retired. They lost Corbett to Carolina in free agency. And we saw that in their game against Buffalo. Buffalo was able to get the pass rush on them and really disrupt things. So I think we're going to see more of that. I like the Niners defense in this matchup. I think they can take control of this game. And Cleve Analytics had, a great stat, that the Niners have owned the Rams recently, have covered the last 5 times these two teams met, including last year. They blew them out as an underdog. So it could be just one of those stylistic matchups where, hey, Shanahan has the upper hand on McVay, just the way these two rosters are constructed. But I hope the Niners take care of business. I'm on them tonight, and I'm hoping to finish the week off with a win.
Yeah, I love the 49ers here tonight in this one at home. What are your thoughts on Matt Stafford? He's already thrown 5 interceptions, only 4 passing touchdowns. Still question marks on if that arm is strong enough with that elbow issue that he had coming into this season. Are you looking at any props for him tonight or for the Rams at all?
Yeah, I haven't looked at any props, but like you said, Stafford to me is a guy very volatile, a lot of variance, right? Like he can win you a game, he can lose you a game, and with the Niners being able to pressure him tonight, we saw again in that game against Buffalo where he's not a mobile quarterback. So if you can put some heat on him, you can force him into turnovers, right? So I think that's big. And, I think that, Stafford's a guy last year towards the end of the year really struggled, had multiple interceptions in multiple games down the stretch. They really were wondering if he was going to be able to be healthy enough for the playoff run. He was. A couple things fell their way. 49ers dropped an easy interception in the NFC Championship game, and then all of a sudden, they got the upper hand and they ended up, winning the Super Bowl. But I think they were a little overrated coming into the season. I played a little plus 200 for them not to make the playoffs. I played under the win total. And, Stafford and his injury concerns, and not only that, but his recklessness with the football sometimes was a big part of that.
I tell you, in some of those games, you wonder who he is passing to and if he's confused which team he is on with those interceptions. Just makes me shake my head. I have to ask you about the 49ers, though. Jimmy G, what is your faith in him? We know Trey Lance went off with that ankle injury. Will be out for quite a while here. So do you have faith in the 49ers with Jimmy G?
I do. It's kind of like it's going to sound like I'm a little bit on the fence here, but as a team that Jimmy G, he can get you into the playoffs. You put a strong team around you, he can win you some games. I think we saw that last year. But it's I don't know if he's the answer. I think the loss of Trey Lance, long term hurts the 49ers because it hurts Lance's development. And I think that they had a chance to really, if Lance did develop, to really go far this year and kind of get to that next level. But having a strong backup like Jimmy G, is going to pay off. I just think, last week, I don't think we saw the best Jimmy G, which is another reason I'm on the Niners. Everyone was like, hey, this is great. We can just plug in Jimmy G. But the problem is with that is Jimmy G wasn't taking any of the reps all off season. He thought he was going to play somewhere else. You know what I mean? So I think that's a tough spot for him to come in last week. So I think we'll see a much better version of Jimmy G tonight. But long term, I don't know. I think it really hurts the Niners that, Lance ended up getting injured like that.
Okay. I have to ask you 2 more quarterback questions before we leave here, Mark. Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, we saw those 2 against each other on the field yesterday. Any takeaways from both of those quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough, for Kenny Pickett, to be honest with you. The Steelers were a team that I did play their win total under. I think Mike Tomlin's an incredible coach, and he's done so much with what I think is a pretty rough roster. And I think the issue with Pickett that we're going to have is that offensive line is not what it used to be. And, it's hard for a rookie quarterback to be in that type of situation where you're not getting protection. Again, long term, can Pickett make it in the league? Sure. But I think it's going to be a rough rookie year. And, Zach Wilson's a guy who I didn't have a lot of faith coming out of the draft at BYU. Yeah. They really played a soft schedule, so I had some question marks. So we're seeing some up and down results. We'll find out with Zach Wilson. Not very sure. But I think that, Pickett this year in Pittsburgh, I think it's just a tough situation. They're in a strong division. And like I said, they're not built up front like they used to be. And I think when you're a young quarterback, you need that protection.
Mark, I could talk football with you all day here, but I know you've got a busy schedule. What have you got going on at Yahoo Sportsbook?
Yeah, so a lot I'm doing daily content with them. You can my articles come out usually Monday through Thursday, and then I do some video work for college football. We do the college football rundown, so it's a lot of fun with that. Also do some work for the Sharp app. I have a live stream on Saturday mornings called Betting for Breakfast, where we break down some of the top college football games and best bets. So you could they're really the main two places you can find my work. But Yahoo Sportsbook during the week, and then on the weekends we do the video with the college football rundown. Went 3-1 this weekend, so we're hoping to keep the winning picks going.
Congratulations on that 3-1. Nice work there. Where can people find you on all social media, Mark?
Yep, my Twitter handle is right there, X_Drumheller. That's where you can find me. And at Instagram as well, same thing, X_Drumheller. So they're the two accounts that I use primarily the most. But basically, everything's on Twitter. Like if you want the work, the content, it's all right there on Twitter for you.
Mark, it was an absolute pleasure having you today on the Joe Madden Sports Show. I hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely, I had a blast, Joe. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good luck tonight with the 49ers.
Good luck.